The world of The Witcher is pretty magical. Want to know the most magical part about it? These dadgummed swords! Not sure how to break this to everyone in love with Geralt, but you can't actually draw a sword that long from off of your back like that. Geralt's sheaths are either magic, or his arm can grow to about 4 feet long at will. Either way, pretty darn magical. I will, of course, be picking nits like that about this game for the rest of my life. That's down to 3 reasons. First, I'm a hyper-analytical whack job. Second, the world created by CG Projekt Red for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is so vast and packed with immersive realism that when little details like that break the immersion, it really sticks out. Third, Geralt secretly makes me feel incredibly insecure. There is no doubt that in terms of vast open-world RPGs with immersive realism and beautifully emergent gameplay, The Witcher 3 is a veritable masterpiece of game development. Released in 2015 by CD Projekt Red, The Witcher 3 will go down in history as one of the greatest Western RPGs of all time, finally perfecting the open-world trend started by Skyrim. It came out prior to other massive franchise entries like Fallout 4 and Mass Effect Andromeda, and it was so far out of their league that simply comparing Andromeda to The Witcher 3 may have actually killed the Mass Effect franchise, assuming it didn't kill BioWare as a developer entirely. Odds are that by this point, you've heard loads of other people gushing about this game. Odds are also pretty good that very few of them have been able to really articulate why this game is so good, resorting to simply telling you to buy it and then you'll understand. Frankly, they're not wrong. This game is among the greatest games ever made for a lot of reasons that don't really make sense until you experience them all combined. It's a masterpiece of game design and interactive storytelling that allows every person to have their own unique experience inside this incredibly detailed world, despite the limitation that they pass through a few set gates along the way. I'll reiterate, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is one of the best Western RPGs ever made. Top 3 at least, if not inarguably number 1. The game has everything: an enormous world, scads of player choice, stunning visuals and animations, an engaging story, interesting and well-developed characters, incredibly deep game mechanics, engaging music, amazing voice acting. The list just goes on and on. So, I'm going to break with what is tradition at this point, years after the game's release, and tell you few who don't already own it why you don't want to buy this game. First and foremost, and by far the main reason you shouldn't buy this game, the whole thing with the swords that I said earlier. Ha! Just kidding. That's maybe reason number 4 or 5. Honestly, it's up there. You think I'm being funny? But I'm not. It would be different if A, literally anyone in the game besides Geralt wore their swords like that, and B, you weren't watching his back every time he drew one of his swords. I praised the animations in this game just a minute ago, and typically they're fantastic, which is why watching his swords impossibly break through a full leather sheath every time he draws them gets annoying after a while. The animators clearly knew this was an issue, but apparently they lost an argument with the character designers at some point. The next reason you should avoid this game is the faces. Faces for the NPCs in this game are weird. Of course, since there are literally thousands of NPCs, they were for the most part procedurally generated, not sculpted by hand like Geralt and a few of the main characters. This is expected, and certainly you won't see anything like the repetition of early third-person RPGs like Knights of the Old Republic, in which there were only like 5 faces total for every character in the game. But in a game where the expansive open world feels like every inch was crafted by hand instead of largely procedurally generated by software, the faces are annoyingly repetitive. In comparison, I have never seen the same tree twice. It's seriously unreal. Okay, now the actual main reason you shouldn't buy The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. You'll never finish it. Obviously I'm generalizing now, but honestly, not by much. I have about 20 hours into the game. It's taken me about a year to get that. I finished about 80% of the main story of the game. The actual completion rate I have for the game, which GOG helpfully tracks for me, yeah, that's about 8%. With another 4 hours or so, I'll finish off the main story quests of the game. I'll have played for 24 hours, and I'll still have 90% of the game world left completely untouched. 90% of the available stories to add to my own experience in the world of The Witcher. This game is enormous. Literally 100 hours of gameplay, assuming you're really fast and don't ever die. Sure, there are people who have 100%ed this game, but they are such a ridiculous minority when compared to the total number of people who bought the game that I feel very, very comfortable saying that you will never finish it. And finally, Geralt's hair physics are nowhere near as good as Lara Croft's in Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is a year newer and much, much tinier in scope. But you spend a lot of time staring at the back of both of these protagonists' heads, so you might as well have natural-looking hair to stare at. I'm sure most of you understand that these reasons are slightly tongue-in-cheek. But for those of you who are still confused, let me be clear. I don't actually think there's a compelling reason not to buy The Witcher 3 at this point. The game is obviously not perfect. But when one of the downsides to the thing is that you'll never run out of content relevant to your own personal experience in an engaging open world, well, that's really only a downside to the OCD people who must have a 100% sign next to their completion meter in games. Which, oh, don't ever show those people any LEGO games. Down that path lies madness. So, there you go. The game is amazing, except for swords and faces and hair, and the fact that you'll always have more game to play. It was worth full price when it was new. It's still worth it now, though it's also pretty much always on sale. If you buy it for PC on GOG, you can have it DRM free, so you won't have to buy it multiple times to play with friends. Oh, wait. 0 multiplayer. Alright, there's your one legitimate downside.